Hey folks, I'm back and hopefully I've remembered how to do this because it's been a minute, not that long, but it has been a minute since I tried a live over here. And to be quite honest, the reason that I'm doing a live today is because at the moment I'm having some laptop difficulties. It doesn't want to pre-record and sort stuff. Basically my laptop's getting old. Apparently it's suffering from more significant old age than I had anticipated, and because of this it's causing me grief. So until I get that sorted, hopefully you can hear me okay, because I've got no idea. Hello Vicar. I'm going to, as we discussed, try and make you a mod really quickly, but I don't know if I can do that on here. It doesn't let me do that on here, which is really strange. Let me just have another. Hi Jodie, welcome. I'm glad you can both hear me. Oh well, I've learned how to do that apparently. Come on. Right, I'm going to look into it if that's okay for next time, because I don't know how to make you a mod. I'm almost certain that I did it last time, but perhaps I didn't use StreamYard when I made a mod, and I really have no idea. If anyone has any information on that, it would be super helpful if you want to leave that in the comments if you watch this back, because yeah, it looks like I'm going to be needing to do a lot more live videos and on the cusp videos than pre-recorded for a little while anyway. This is anyway exactly what it sounds. It's August practice, reflections, favourites, kind of a jumble, which may seem strange, being as we're sliding through September, but I wanted to come back on and just get a little bit more acquainted with doing a video again. I had a little bit, maybe 3 weeks break after just doing lots and lots. Idea with YouTube only useful for Twitch. Oh, okay. Definitely feel free to give me all the info. I am not Twitch savvy. I watch Twitch people, but I'm not Twitch savvy, but I can use it. I can learn. I'm willing to learn. But yeah, it's been a bit of a strange month, so I figured I would come on and talk about my strange month, but also show you hopefully what is some interesting shit as well. August was my birthday month, which, I mean, usually is quite a big thing in my world, which I'm told is very classic Leo apparently, but more in terms of, I don't like big parties and stuff like that. That's not sort of how I roll, but I'm usually really excited for it and get really anticipated for the build up, just like a kid basically, waiting for something exciting like their birthday or perhaps a festive season. It's kind of how I feel for Halloween as well. But it was a very quiet month. It was a very disorientating and disconnective month, and so I took a little bit of a step back, which actually led, if anyone follows me on Instagram, to me starting my September sabbatical early. That's right, I started my September sabbatical at the end of August, perhaps only a few days in, but it feels really like relevant, because one of the things that I've been moving through is liminal space, which is kind of the Patreon theme of September. So I won't talk too much about that, because I can talk about that if I come back and do another one of these next month. because it was a strange month, I did notice that my practice was really, really pared down. And that's something that I did want to talk about in reflection of what a practice looks like when it's pared down, sort of normalizing this, because I think that it happens. Certainly, I know most people go through quiet periods. A lot of friends have since reached out to me since I did my newsletter edition 2, again, perhaps a couple of days ago, so it was kind of a September thing, but speaking about the changes in my practice and that sensation of being in liminal space. And a lot of people have said that even during August, like myself, that had really started up for them. They had found themselves not necessarily being called to divination at all or as much. And so because that's something that people have reached out about but not really said that they've shared it too much with other people, or perhaps, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to be a massive talking topic very often, probably because we pare back, right? I definitely took a step back in quite a few big ways. I allowed myself a slower month in August on Patreon. I was preoccupied with some other things as well. So, spoiler, one of my favorite things of the whole entire August was that my stepmom got an all clear after a surgery and something was sent off. Obviously, I'm not going to give intimate details, but it was a very stressful time and she got the all clear. So that was like the best thing that happened in August. You're interested to see how you do the quieter phases. Yeah. So one of the things that I noticed in the quieter phases on reflection, which is particularly unique for me or strange for me, is that I didn't really use many decks at all. Don't let this fool you. This wasn't in use. This has been a September one. That's the Woodland Wardens, if anyone's wondering, because I'll get asked. I pulled, and I put this one on the top specifically, I pulled a few cards from the Brady Tarot, and I'll be honest, throughout August, I don't remember pulling very many cards at all, to the point of it's really hard to recall that energy and that information and that process aside from working with the Four of Cups for Patreon. That was beautiful. It felt very aligned with the content that month, which I'll get to, because it was a lovely content for me to enjoy. It's definitely one of my favorites because of the animal that we worked with. But when my divination stuff goes quiet, that's always something that I notice a lot, because I freaking live for cards. I love cards. I find them as a great way to express myself, a great way to ground, to process, to do some of the more witchy, shape-shifting, journey-based rituals and rites and stuff that I do as well, aside from more traditional tarot reading. And this is going to be a rambly one, as you can tell, but I do have stuff to show you for the people who want to see like stuff. But yeah, I use tarot in an oracle in so many ways that for it to get that quiet is very out of the ordinary. And predominantly I focused on my August year ahead spread card and rune. And then this really stood out for me. And the reason that this stood out for me, it was a several card pull as I was moseying around mid-discussion with my stepmom, because I will sling cards kind of casually when I'm with her. And what I mean by casually is we were talking, so other people might find that quite distracted or distractible, but I don't mind. And I find we have these interesting, spooky for others, like connective, tapped in experiences when we're doing stuff like that together. Hello, hello, tarot readings from a bitch. It is good to see you here. I properly found your YouTube and sort of processed the fact that you was on YouTube today, by the way. So you've maybe seen my comment earlier, but if anyone is here or watching this back, go and sub to tarot readings from a bitch, because you need to. We need more fabulous tarot people, as far as I'm concerned. And Jodie was saying that you want woodland wardens. It's always drawing you in. You would love woodland wardens. For anyone who's wondering, like, I know, Jodie, I'm not just pushing decks. You would freaking love it, and I will send you a little video of some of the cards and the book after. You avoided it for a long time, being on YouTube, because your voice sounds like Violet from The Incredibles. I love Violet from The Incredibles. I'm here for it. I am here for it. Let's see if I can tap that. There we go, without wobbling my tripod too much. So as I was talking to my stepmom about things of which I'm not going to share, because we were having a private discussion about some processes and stuff that I've been shifting through. I've been having a very, very low period, a very challenging period, and she was talking to me about finding a way to reclaim my power in the way that I speak about myself and present myself and my self-worth, and the sort of invasive ways that can trickle into even something as simple as our language, but really reinforces it, not only for ourselves, but it kind of encourages other people, to do that too. And as a therapist, I'm really good at working with others with that, and I can support myself to a certain point, but of course we've all got blind spots, right? And that is something that we were talking about, and I was shuffling from the deck, and then I got the power card as she had literally said the word power, and I was like, well, whilst I had been feeling, I don't even think disenchanted with tarot is the right word, because I wasn't worried that I wasn't going to come back to tarot. I have been exploring identity a lot. I have been feeling in a space of dissociative space, in the very therapeutic sense, and then in turn it's kind of bled into aspects of things I enjoy, parts of identity. So yeah, not disenchanted, but certainly distant, and we're going for the disinterested, maybe just not feeling like I needed to come to them. So it was really nice to have this card come up, and in one of those moments where, to be honest, I had been questioning parts of my practice and what it means and what other people judge my lifestyle to be, and how they think that represents me as a human being, and all of those wonderful, complicated things that we can get in our heads about. And I think that's where identity come in, when you lose a lot of things that you once associated yourself with, and then you're feeling vulnerable, having difficult periods, then being able to attach identity is very difficult, and sometimes we can search to see ourselves through other people's eyes, and that's definitely something that I had been having difficulty with. Is another reason I think that my practice had been pared down, because there's certain things that I don't feel are beneficial to do when I'm feeling like that. And I also think that having space prompts a very uncomfortable but very necessary reflective process, and a way not to distract myself from more sort of subconscious information that's kind of up and in and around, but hasn't been fully realized or acknowledged yet. The Brady Tarot is very, very powerful. I agree. I'm getting good at this comment thing, if I do say so myself. So the Brady Tarot, that's my little, it wasn't a short story, but my story about using it. And people know this is one of my favorite decks, which is a good thing because sometimes you just need it. What's interesting is one of my favorite decks of all time, which has literally lived is still living on my altar and is now being in use, is the Memento Mori Oracle. But me and the Memento had a little bit of a break during August. I don't know that it was the full space of August, purely because I definitely worked with it in terms of my year ahead spread, but I stopped pulling daily cards from it. And that was one of the things where I noticed, okay, something is different in me, something is shifting, something is sensitive. The reason that I wanted to come on and share this, even though it's not all lovely and bright, I mean, I'm not lovely and bright all the time anyway, right? But I think one of my passions, which is what I said in the newsletter, is sharing some of those parts in our practice where we really feel like something's changing, but we don't really know what's going on, or we don't perhaps know what we're doing, where we have to simplify things and go back, like any version of those difficult bits where you're pulling cards and they're not reading for you, you know, it's not becoming a process. I like to speak to those, to talk to those bits as well, because I think that it makes us feel less isolated in those experiences as and when they happen, even if they are nuanced for each of us. What was interesting is in that month, and this does go into some of my other favourites, is we pulled, I should have brought the card out. Aha, it is here. It is here. And right on top, because I haven't used this deck since, not gonna lie. Last month on my Patreon, and we did not work with this keyword because I am rogue. I go rogue all the time. I work with animals in a big way. If you're not familiar with me, my Instagram apparently isn't a very good reflection of this anymore, which is perhaps some of my struggles, but animals are a really big part of my just whole practice. If you type in animal on my videos and just acquaint yourself with some of them, it will give you more of an idea rather than me boring everyone. But last month we worked with leopard gecko, which is what this gecko is. And for those who don't know, I have leopard geckos. I have currently 2 of them, and I'm very familiar with them. And I wanted to work with the nuance of rejuvenation and transformation, transmutation, those kind of layers, but with the nuance that I feel we can pull upon in leopard gecko as from having them. And I use that by exploring the way that they shed differently to other reptiles. So I'm going to read another comment in a second, but I'm just laughing because Jodie's like, what deck is this? What deck is this? This deck is the... and I do see your comment, Marlene. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Marlena? Is it Marlena? And I'll come back to your comment so that I can give it my full attention. This is the Animal Kin Oracle, and they have a mass market version of this. The cards are slightly bigger, Jodie, but aside from that, it's pretty much the same thing. I should really remember to say what decks they are. I'm terrible. I'm just like, this is my practice. You can guess what I'm using. So the nuance with leopard geckos and some other lizards, I'm sure, is that they redigest, they eat their shed. Yeah, so it's really soft, their shed. I have some, which people have probably seen before at points. They rarely leave it because of this. But this is the tail from one of my gecks. I'd love to tell you who, but I've saved, whenever they've left me some randomly, I've stashed it up to a point of I don't know whose is who. And over the years, I've had 7 leopard geckos in total. So I know it wasn't either of the girls, but it was one of the boys. So it gave this kind of nuance about unlearning. And unlearning is the thing that I focused on in August on my Patreon. And obviously, my Patreon is a big part of what I do every month. So it's important that I enjoy it. But I really loved doing the unlearning chat. Like, there are so many nuances to unlearning, and ones that come from other spaces as well. So not just what we're seeing in sort of tarot world in more recent years, but like unlearning comes up as a therapist with my clients. Unlearning is a big part of what we do in therapy, right? As much as learning is. And I did a live where I actually allowed myself to, I wrote out a bunch of notes before, and I said to everyone, look, my memory is getting really terrible. I find it really frustrating and a little bit upsetting, because I always had an awesome memory. And then between fibromyalgia and then COVID, my memory's not great. And I said, I'm going to check my notes and you can tell me like if it affected your experience. Well, I had really good feedback, which was lovely, because it felt quite empowering to have those when I needed them. You can tell that I don't have notes really today because I stumble a bit more. But also, we just had this really interesting discussion. It was a lot of me talking as well, but I had reflected on it. I had spoken to people sort of in private DMs and stuff. And the feedback as well about the process of unlearning through all these different avenues and where people were really made sense, and kind of links into the fact that then I'm exploring liminality this month. So I really enjoyed that. And to be able to do it all through the lens of like, this is one of my most beloved animals, that was, that was awesome. So yeah, that's the animal kin oracle, I'm pretty sure. I'm like, shit, is it? I want to go back to Marlena. I want to go back to Marlena's comment, which means scrolling up and a little bit of jiggling around. Thanks for sharing what it's like to step back from tarot practice. I feel you can still be connected to tarot even if you aren't pulling as many cards. I had a weird wild August myself. I wholeheartedly agree. I think in the same way that I'm doing a lot of experiential work with runes at the moment, that the tarot archetypes, and I don't just mean the majors, like when I say archetypes, unless I specify, I'm generally referring to any of the 78 cards. I feel like we can experience those without the cards at all present, and we can see them and those themes and experiences and feelings. That's the whole idea of the cards, right? They're meant to represent and encapsulate parts of those moments. So definitely, I agree. Thank you for sharing. It was a weird August, wasn't it? Like a very weird August. And then I'm loving seeing people, by the way. Thank you for coming and hanging out with me. Project Refine says, I love leopard geckos. I had one and loved him so much. They're so social and cute. Love their little smile. They are adorable. Very adorable. Currently, the 2 leopard geckos that are still with us, and by still with us, I haven't got rid of any, but obviously over time, unfortunately, some have passed on. But we still have Rogue and we still have Jagger, and they're very interesting because they're very different. Jagger is possibly any visitor's favourite. And it's never anything against Rogue. What it is about Jagger, and it's very unusual for all of the leopard geckos that I've ever met, because I have reptile friends and I've been around a lot. He's really docile to like the point of seeming a little bit like a cuddly cat. He would be a great reptile for people who, you know, like when they go to zookeeper days and the zookeepers, in hopefully a nicest way possible for the animal, try and educate people but also let them handle them and show them that they're not scary and, you know, this is how they are. He would be totally up for that. He's very funny. He's very sweet. I'm glad that you mentioned feathers, Jodie, because that can move me on to feathers as well. As I said, it was my birthday in August, and whilst I had a particularly strange time, this is the month that I get the most material stuff come into my possession. It's the same every year, and for those who don't live with me, then it looks like really grand and over the top, but you know, it's, if you put it in context, it's not. Unfortunately, I can only tell you that, and you'll have to believe me. So August, I got some really interesting presents. There are a bunch of witchy books that I want to show you, and then I'll mention a couple of books that I actually read in August as well. But the first is probably not going to fit in the frame properly. Now this beast is something to behold. I found this not that long ago, and online there is no Western European feather thing. If you don't know, feathers are a big part of my practice. I forage for feathers. I do just a lot of animal stuff, and the things that I find the most locally do tend to be feathers just because of what I have access to. So I find a lot of them in and around nature, and I was having difficulty being able to identify a bunch of them, and this fantastic human being made this a nerdy ass book. This is not going to be of interest to most people in terms of you're not going to want to go out and get it, but this isn't a shopping channel, right? So hopefully you won't care. This is really freaking heavy. Anyway, my dad saw this on my wish list. My dad is the person that I have the most in common with in terms of my interests in animals, my interest in macabre, creepy, strange, sometimes people would call morbid fascinations with things, not necessarily morbid in unsavory ways, but so he thinks this is cool too, right? In mine and his world, this is cool, and it, to the rest of you, including myself, actually, it's quite overwhelming. It's not. I'm still getting adjusted to reading it. Right, there is so much information. This is a very scientific identification book. This isn't like your usual cute, this is what this animal is, there's a picture of it, this is where it lives, and a couple of other facts. This is serious business, and I got this for my birthday, and my stepmom had found this feather over their local field, one of the ones that we don't usually walk in. I wasn't actually with her, and she picked it up because my family are really pretty good sports, my immediate family anyway, for she's not particularly into stuff like this, although we do have a kinship of birds between the two of us. But she was like, I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to pick it up for Tegan. And I had a bit of a time looking for it online because it looks very similar to a small bird of prey. So a lot of people might, including myself, sort of toy with whether it was some kind of falcon feather. But it wasn't sitting right for me. And this book, I think I flicked through it the first day I had it, happened to land on this page and be like, okay, that's a gull feather. It definitely looks like a gull feather. And then where's my other little page marker? I think, just to give you an insight into the book, I think that it's a herring gull. That's going to be my guess. So this is quite the book. It's quite the experience. If you're a nerd into feathers and you're obviously accessing feathers from Western Europe, because otherwise it's kind of not helpful, then this will be for you. During the month of August, one of my presents was this beautiful creation by Candles of the Moon, who has become a sweet friend that I've made. So I purchased this, but during that month at some point, she also sent me this wonderful owl feather from, I think her friend had, I can't remember if she said got it from work or whatever it was. Let me see what comments you've put before. I wish that we had smell-o-vision, because this candle, by the way, is insanely delicious. You switched accounts, Jodie. That's totally fine. Speaking of, like, let's get to this one. Sorry, it's wobbling the camera. It's the only way I can click the comments. Speaking of unlearning, you grew up always being told to resist the urge to pick up feathers on the ground because they are gross and dirty. I'm trying to just pick them up because I feel called to. Yes, that is very, very common. And depending on who I was with as a child, because I had a lot of various people act as like guardians for me, I definitely got told that too. Fortunately, I had some on the other end of the spectrum. I'm not going to lie. It's when I pick them up, I try and, like, if I'm out and about and I'm not as prepared, so I don't have like a foraging bag and a glove with me, then I try and be mindful of what hand I pick them up with, and then either hold them permanently in that hand while I'm wandering around, which draws a lot of attention when I'm walking down the road, or just not use that hand, don't touch my phone with it, and then make sure like I wash it. It's all personal preference. Some people don't clean their feathers. I go for a really rigorous cleaning process with mine, and then they are popped into various, most of them are stored away now because the moths kept getting them, but some of them are, because I like to have some out on display, right? So I love feathers. I hope that in your process of unlearning and then relearning that you're totally okay to do that, that you find some awesome ones, because foraging is so much fun, I think, anyway. Jodie saying that you've got pheasant feathers for me. Well, I am elated to hear that, because I have 0. I got most of the feathers I own, I have found myself, but every now and then someone fabulous, like my dear friend Jodie, sends me a feather. I got sent a tiny little pheasant feather, and that was one of the ones that the moths ate. I was like, no. You love finding books about local things. Me too, right? So good. And so very specific to my area, which I loved. So yeah, this gorgeous candle from Candles of the Moon was one of my birthday treats from my partner, along with, I've taken this off so that I can show you. This is from, let me get the tag right, I think Under the Pyramids. I really hope I'm remembering that right. Yeah, Under the Pyramids. They are wonderful. They make, is the word, I don't think that they use the term recycled, but I can't think of the term right now, but reused silver, and they make various talismans for necklaces and other jewelry. So it's not just runes, but I have been working with runes for quite some time now, definitely more deeply in the last couple of years, really enjoying it. This is my absolute favorite. It's the one that I feel most connected to, the one that I use the most in my ritual. And the only thing that I really, really struggle with is then pronouncing them, because my retention for their pronunciation is still really terrible. I'm actually listening to the Poetic Edda on Audible, the Jackson Crawford version, who's someone that I really love watching on YouTube as well. It's a great listen, listening to him do it. And one of the reasons why I wanted to get the audio version, because I already have the book, is for the pronunciation, because it pains me that my pronunciation is so poor. So this is Algiz, I believe, but like, don't trust my pronunciation on it, basically. And I have 2 necklaces. I actually won the other one from Under the Pyramid, so I haven't taken that one off. But this rune necklace, when I won their one, like a part of their giveaway, it was for a shorter necklace. Well, actually, I bought the necklace part, but it was for a talisman, and it's an inverted cross, which people can do with what they want. I know why I chose an inverted cross. There can be varying meanings. And yeah, I decided to get this for my birthday. And this, normally when I get candles from Candles of the Moon, because she is my candle woman, I really adore her. She's just a lovely human, a fantastic witch. I really love and respect her practice. She is a small business that I then cherish supporting. And they're not all, you can get I want to say less fancy, and what I mean by that is her taper candles, which I don't have any of to hand. So you can get more like ritual candles in simpler form, and then I'll often like inscribe them. But this fancy pants piece was just for fun, and normally I wait and use them for particular rituals and stuff like that, but this one is just going to be for the hell of it. And the only reason that I haven't burned it yet is because I really wanted to show everyone. I told you you were going to be in for the long haul. Now, let's get into books. As I say, I'm listening to the Poetic Edda, but slowly. One of the books that I finished in August was by Brené Brown, and Brené Brown is someone who I really respect and find her offerings and work very fascinating. She does dive into various aspects of like human experience, like layers of, I definitely know that she has explored aspects of psychology, which then obviously really appeals to me given what I do, but also has this really interesting like data analysis and very mathematical mind and way of collecting information that I'm very in awe of it. I really recommend some of her, if she's got more than one. One of her TED Talks is one of my favorite things that I have watched of hers. It was really personal, it was really engaging, it wasn't too long. It's a very good one. If anyone's interested, I can look it up for you, you know, if you comment below. And what do you mean about the oh, they didn't get the flamingo feather. No, sorry, Jodie's asking. The moth saga was before this, so now I've only got a few feathers out. My flamingo feather from you is actually up by my poetry books and my fox, one of my fox skulls and stuff, so it's on its own, which means the moths won't get it. The way that the moths got my feathers, just if anyone ever wants to keep an eye on that, because usually it's dust mites you need to keep an eye on. But if you put feathers in pots and you're somewhere where you get these kinds of moths who like to eat those sorts of things, they will have their caterpillars in the bottom of the pot, and then the caterpillars munch the feathers from the bottom up, which is what happened. And that day I was very not a fan of moths. I didn't do anything to them, but I was just not a fan of them. But yeah, back to Brené Brown. So I got a 2 credit free Audible thing, and I thought I'll try it out. I'm very fussy about audio books. I find them a lot easier nowadays given all of my chronic pain and my conditions, but I'm so freaking fussy about narrators, fussy about voices, fussy about the way that they add or don't add emphasis on things, And I find that I do tend to like the person who wrote it to narrate it the most, so far, aside from if anything's narrated by Stephen Fry. Like, he's fabulous. So I listened to and finished Braving the Wilderness, and it's a really interesting book. I got it because of how I've been feeling the past few months, and it talked about belonging, and it spoke about it in a way of like finding belonging, but in an empowering way for the self. The concept of wilderness isn't touched on as, it's more like in an abstract way than a very direct way. And in terms of belonging, it's not an experience in the way that it kind of sounds in its summary. I'm actually going to do a big review of it, which I've written out, but I need to edit, probably on Patreon. But what I would say about it is that it's definitely, it wasn't new information to me, but I think that's more because I'm familiar with Brené's work. I already have a big engagement with psychotherapy and psychology, so those aspects already make sense. They're already conversations that I'm involved in. A lot of the people that she quotes, not all in those fields either, but are people who have made big waves in like discussions of humanity and communication and things like that. So it wasn't necessarily new. It does have, there were cons, like there are to any book. It's very, that one in particular, very US centric, but it is from her very personal experience, which you would expect, and that's where she lives, right? It definitely could have been shorter as well. But I think that in terms of some of the conversations, or perhaps the lack of conversation, but certainly friction that's going on in social media communities, whatever community you find yourself within, there are some what people who aren't familiar with what she's bringing to the table, people will find very challenging. But I feel, and obviously it's just my opinion, they are very necessary things to hear about having finding ways to share space when we don't agree. We come from different belief systems and like viewpoints, and I shouldn't have to caveat this, but we're not talking about like people actively going out and harming, but there's certainly a big discussion on how intolerant we have become as a collective, especially fueled in social media spaces, about the way that we sort of seek out echo chambers, perhaps unknowingly. Perhaps it makes sense. We obviously want people who share our interests and things like that, but when it gets to a phase so far into an extreme that we only want to hear more of how we feel, and anything that isn't that elicits responses that move past communication, they move past being able to share space, and they lead to breakdowns and segregations to the point of people becoming smaller and smaller and smaller sort of fractions of community. I can't really summarize it without going into like a whole big thing, because I had a lot of thoughts about it, and obviously I didn't agree with all of it. What I found really interesting was that when she's talking about things and you don't agree with them, it puts you in the experience that she is talking about, which is interesting in itself. It's experiential. It's not, if you listen to it, I think that it gives it a lot more context, but in the same vein, she's not as engaging in that particular audio as she is in maybe TED Talk. That's just my feeling. So hopefully that's a summary of the book. It's not obviously a book within the witchy and tarot community, but in terms of people and communication, and it does have layers of belonging, and certainly in an interesting way. It's probably not the first belonging book you want to go to if you're looking for something a bit more self-care containing space because you're at a heightened stage of vulnerability. But in terms of like these big theme topics that I'm talking about, I think listen or read it and be challenged and be angry at some of what she's saying, like if you need to. It's I feel like that's good for the soul anyway. I don't know, maybe people think I'm nuts. One of the things I was saying to a friend recently is if I couldn't see and hold space for experiences that were different to my own, that I hadn't had, or perhaps didn't even necessarily immediately agree with, or maybe I would never agree with them, perhaps I would never feel that way. But if I couldn't find ways to hold space for that, then I wouldn't be able to do my job as a therapist. So maybe that puts me in a slightly weird stance where I find sometimes people feed back to me that they don't feel like I've taken a side. And it's not that I don't have opinions or preferences, but there's a certain way that I approach things just as a person that's impacted by my training and stuff. You've had to unfollow so many intolerant people. Yeah, it's not been fun on social media, and that's why I took a sabbatical from Instagram. Instagram was kind of breaking my heart for a lot of reasons, which if you want to know why, then you should be able to go and read the post. It's actually the post of my face and the cat, not the sabbatical post. It's the one before, and you should be able to read it even if you're not on Instagram, I think. Jodie's just gone and ordered the Woodland Wardens. I don't even feel bad for my part in this. Let me know what you think. Let me know. And then Vika has it on her wish list. So sorry that was a thing, but these are going to be quicker. So cartomancy and folk witchcraft is one that I have been reading parts of in August, but it's very much like I've read only up until page 16, and then I've been flicking 2 bits. Where am I at the moment? On the 7s. Pardon me. This is quite different to my traditional selection of tarot books, and the reason that I was I've got to stop trying to look at comments at the same time. I was really into this is because after reading and finishing and working with, I might add, working with witchcraft books, definitely my new favourite thing. Like reading them really slow, even if it takes me several months, and like stopping and doing bits with them. Definitely my favourite way to like have an experience as well as read. And I'm slow anyway now, so it makes more sense. Roger J. Horn's folk witchcraft book is the nuts. I love it. It's one book that I have very, very little sort of feedback on it that isn't amazing. Like I feel my review of it would sound really, really biased, but it's just that in all of the books that I have read, that's the one that I have like one gripe with it, and it's tiny. So I'm really digging his work. And then if you're not familiar, he has a blog, and I think he calls them letters. Like he writes these pieces on the blog of his, and they're not massively frequent, but he lets you know that he's done them via Instagram posts. They're so good. I honestly am just really enamored with the way that he talks and shares his views. I think it's done in a really nice, concise, but very beautifully passionate way still. And so the fact that he had done a cartomancy one really, really got, like, it tickled my fancy, because if you don't know, I work predominantly with a mixture of the Rider-Waite-Smith and numerology. So with this being like playing cards in Marseille, I was like, yes, please, I will have some of this. Already, in the small bit that I have read, I freaking love it. It's definitely not what I expect or am familiar with from these types of books, even from the introduction. Just love it. And then these 4 I can't talk about, but I wanted to show you because they came in August, were my birthday books. And I went for, so my grandparents were in Glastonbury having a visit, which I was very jealous about, but they can do what they want. And they messaged me and said, we want to get you something from here for your birthday, because, you know, we all have the Glastonbury vibe, and it's I don't know, if you know Glastonbury, like it feels extra special to get something witchy or tarot related or whatever from Glastonbury. And so I was very unprepared and sent them a list of books that happened to be on my wish list, and thought, oh my God, they're probably not going to find any. But they found these two. The Crooked Path, An Introduction to Traditional Witchcraft. I'm stumbling over my words. I'm trying to be quick because I'm aware of the time, but unfortunately it just is what it is. Obviously, I have read and been involved in my craft to a point where I don't necessarily feel like I need a plethora of introduction books. However, I wouldn't say I'm like massively seasoned, but more to the point, I find it interesting to read the books, especially when they get as big recommendations as this one has, and for very different reasons. Like, one of my friends who also has a lot of chronic pain, similar conditions, brain fog, said they really enjoyed the way it was presented. It was very digestible, and in that way it still added something to their practice. Other people who are really seasoned for years and years and years have said they still enjoyed the framing of this. It's got a forward by Gemma Gary. I thought, yeah, it's warranted a place on my wish list. Corinne Boyer is one of the, so the rest of these are all Troy books. I am an avid Troy book reader and lover, because whilst I enjoy reading about other cultural practices and having a way to widen my understanding of the world and witchcraft and the various practices that people engage with, I think there's different layers to that, right? I'm not trying to practice those ones, although we have some crossovers, but I definitely enjoy learning about them. I enjoy learning about them more from the people who are actually practicing them as well. So I don't have as many books that are like this one. I'm assuming it's going to have more of a, I think he's American, or in America, it's going to have more of a that kind of slant. Minnesota, there we go. So, but you know, I don't have many books on, so far, that might change, books on practices outside of the land that I live, or the various parts of ancestry I have, because I'm just sort of focused in on that at the moment, and I'm okay with that, because I think that it's helping me to not flesh out as in expand upon, but flesh out as in find and refine and unlearn and learn practice that works for me. And Troy Books is very UK based. So Under the Witching Tree is predominantly what feels like a mixture of tree folklore and like stories of the ages, ways that people have used them maybe medicinally. This one came from the speaking tree, it seems. How else? Various rites, like here, visitation, storing plants, rendering animal fat at home, infusing fats with plants, making wine and mead, salves, ointments, elixirs, cordials, wines, fumigations. Probably not necessarily things I'm going to do too much of, but I love trees, and Corinne Boyer has really good feedback from practitioners that I engage with a lot. So I was keen to grab a hold of one of her books. That was one of several. This I have started reading and I'm already loving it. And if someone said, what kind of book would you be looking for? It's this meeting of natural history, folklore and animals. And Giles Watson has basically merged them and made them into these really interesting, I don't even know how to explain them. stories, with fiction, with myth and superstition, but also with science and natural history. Like, that's my jam. If you want to know how I infuse animal gnosis on my Patreon, that's a big meeting of like science and magic. I love that. I respect that. I think that they are interconnected naturally. And the unfamiliar spiders, whilst it may have been it may be a little bit of a jolting read for some, because there are the Latin, I think it's the Latin names, there might be another name for those, or the scientific names. It's really, really good. Oh, and The Witch and the Insect I've read as well. So I'm on to Slug, Snails and Sorcery. It includes animals in here that aren't necessarily always lifted up or involved in more of the animal-based decks. And this is where I notice a bit of divide. Witches works with a lot of animals historically, like slugs and bats, or things were connected to them because of how people felt about them, but either way. And then in the deck, sometimes some of those animals, especially the insects, are kind of leaned away from. And this book, I'm really enjoying it. It's so good. It's so good. So yeah, technically I've started that one. And then this one I was so excited about because of where it's based. Alex Langstone, I've never read any of his stuff yet. I definitely, do you know what, I was toying doing a book club with it, just because I have some friends who were really interested in this as well. But I am so freaking excited for this one. I don't know when I'm going to read it, because I think I'm going to obviously finish The Witch's Natural History and then do The Crooked Path, probably, because of it being a digestible read. But wow, we're nearly an hour in, and just to recap, I have a couple more things to show you that were just birthday things. A few YouTubers that I have been enjoying, because during the sabbatical and just my quieter time, I noticed I came away from like content as well. So it wasn't just putting out there, it was also what I was consuming. It's just, like I said, I've really needed to pare it back just for this time, which is both feels good in some ways and then is really unsettling in others. Like, if I wasn't doing this, some days I'm finding myself trying to fill the time and fall into distraction by doing things that don't seem like they're distractions. So I'll tell myself, well, it's a chore, like the house needs tidying, and I'm noticing that I'm avoiding resting my body. So it's definitely a challenge. Don't think that I've got this liminal space and transitional time of unlearning in my practice down, because I don't. I just know how to talk about it. So yeah, that's what we've got left. I want to shout out Crystal Haven for my favourite baggies in the world. If you've seen how I store my decks, you know I love embroidered bags for the things that I don't have boxes for one reason or another. This one was what's the word? Like, it was tailor-made for me. So this one won't be on there, but the design is just not the size and the colour. You can also request those from her though. And the reason that it's large and it's the colour it is it's because it's home to my Story Medicine Tarot. I'm not going to get it out because I don't want to make this too long, but my Story Medicine Tarot Animal Woman. And I felt like the snake was a really good imagery for why I got the deck and how I work with the deck. I work with it in a very transformational kind of way. Like, when I'm in the middle of something, less liminal though, like when I'm in the middle but I'm more connected and I'm more aware and I've maybe come away from that liminal moment or experience, and I have like a very certain way of how I want to work. And then this bat one is everything. And we're working with bat this month on Patreon, which is perfection. This has my Memento Mori oracle in it because it was getting thick. So the Raven one has a different deck in it now, and this is another one that's been made slightly larger so that I can fit more cards in it. It's adorable, right? Jodie, you've been to the Speaking Tree when you and some friends are planning a trip back there in January. So I will definitely let you know if there's anything to keep an eye out for. Thank you. A couple of other little birthday bits, just because why not? I did this, and I don't know if this translates to anywhere else. In the UK, they've been doing this thing for a couple of years from the government, asking like the quality of living and stuff like that. I think they randomly reached out to houses. I accepted because as someone who is disabled and impacted by a lot of policies and things that go on in the country, I wanted my voice to be heard. It was a boring experience, but if you participate, you get a £10 like voucher thing. And because both of us participated, because my partner is a good sport, although there was lots of eye rolling, we got £20 this year, so it's the second time we've done it. And I went to TK Maxx, which is TJ Maxx for those in the US at least. I don't know where else the shop is, sorry. It's not that I just like the UK and America, it's just I know the most about those two. There's a brand called Ray Dunn. It's a bit of a thing in witchy world, but in like more the aesthetic, okay? I'm not going to lie. It's a popular aesthetic thing. And as someone who, that kind of Halloween meets witchy aesthetic is my all year aesthetic. That's what I enjoy. Even before I was calling myself a witch, I haven't changed my aesthetic for Instagram. I haven't changed it because of how I practice or how I show up. I have more bones in my house. That's literally it. Like I have skulls now. That's about it. Nothing else has really changed. And I have like a very big altar rather than bits sort of, you know, little tchotchkes here, there and everywhere. So this Ray Dunn anyway in the UK, because it's not easy to get a hold of, if at all, I don't know, the rest of the year. What people do is these, some of them are on YouTube actually, and I do find it frustrating, but I hate to complain about what other people get up to. I do think this is kind of sucky, but whatever. They basically go, I think over here, July was when the Halloween stuff started coming out in TK Maxx, which is insane to me, but okay. June, July, and they go up and they buy everything Ray Dunn. That's one of the really popular things, and then they sell it all on eBay for like 3-4 times the price throughout the year. So these things are really hard to get a hold of, and I don't have the capacity, desire, or sometimes mobility to be like running to TK Maxx in that way. That was a long way of saying, not only did I get these, I got them for free with my vouchers. They're 2 Ray Dunn cups. They're very understated, but that's me, because you get really shiny, colourful ones as well. And Fortune Foretold, Witching Hour. And then they have, I didn't even care about the candles, but I have been burning them. They do smell okay. And they have these on the back. I'm pretty sure that they're seconds in TK Maxx, but like, colour me unbothered. These shouldn't have brought me as much joy as they have. And I said to my partner the other day, they're literally one of my favourite things in the room at the moment. And I know that that is ridiculous, but that's where I'm at. It's funny. Easily pleased. 2 more things. My brother, I don't know whether he may have actually picked this up himself. It was originally his. So when he was younger, he was really into rocks and crystals. He kind of grew out of it, which sad times, because I would love if we shared that. he loves Pokemon and gaming, so we're all right. We talk about that instead, which, by the way, another August favourite, does come into September, because technically I didn't get Arceus until September, but I have freaking completed Pokemon Arceus. I have a couple of the Paths of Solitude, which are very much the end of the game, like side quests. I've completed the whole Pokedex. I've completed the which is not usual for me. Like, if I don't have to complete the Pokedex, I don't usually. I've completed all the main game, both the first part of the main game and then the post main game, and I have like a couple of quests left. So I freaking completed it. I'm a bit sad because I'm like, oh, now I need to wait until probably December for Scarlet or Violet. But anyway, I did that. I was very proud of myself. I don't even care if that's sad. Anyway, he gave me one of his stones. He bought me some stuff as well, because if I don't say, I don't think he watches my videos, but otherwise he'll be like, oh, you showed the one thing that I gave you that I already owned. But he knows I like stuff like this, and this is gorgeous. He was like, I thought you would want it. And I was like, you were right. It is lovely. And I don't generally bring too much of this into my space anymore. I don't go out looking for, like, to buy any minerals, crystals, stones, whatever you want to call them, very often at all anymore, for reasons which I've discussed lots. I'm not anti them either, but this was beautiful, and I love things that are raw one side, soft the other. I'm a very tactile human being, which will bring me on to my practice in a second. But speaking of being tactile, our Paper Chase reopened, which Paper Chase is a stationery meets kind of tiny little gadget fun bits kind of shop. This pen feels like the Brady Tarot, so it feels rose petal. And whilst I don't want that from my decks because it's too hard on my hands, I do want it from pens. This simple little joy. Lots of fun. Lots of fun. Yes, I agree, Becca. Those cups are very aesthetically pleasing. They're good fun, and I will have them up all year. So when they're empty, I'll put pens and feathers and you name it, it's going to be in there. Jodie's asking, what am I getting, Scarlet or Violet? I have feelings, which we'll talk about at another point as well, about Scarlet and Violet. It's been the first time where I'm a bit perplexed and maybe not as enthused as I usually am about a new Pokemon game, but I'm still getting it, and I'm leaning towards Violet. Also, my brother is getting Scarlet, so whilst we tend to forget to trade in the end, I usually will get the other game, but I don't know. I'm thinking Violet for now. What about you? You have to let me know. As I was paring back this August, and we are coming to the end of this video for those who are like, my gosh, it's been an hour, lady. I have returned to using my Pagan prayer beads on a daily basis. That's what I call them anyway. My friend Tamara made these for me, and then I've got some personal animal items in there as well as some she added for me. I find that when I'm feeling very disassociative, which, as I say, unfortunately has been coming up again a bit for me, or just like ungrounded, because they can overlap, but obviously they're very different. When I'm feeling sad, when I'm feeling just all of those things that challenge me being in my body or wanting to be present at all, or overwhelm, I am working with these as well. I'm holding them. From a neurodivergency point, I have a few fidget toys anyway, but I find this to be particularly soothing. And then if and when I feel able and want to, I can add layers of my practice in. So there is a mantra that I have with Freya that I didn't make. I found it on YouTube that I enjoy. I might just repeat something to myself. I may just simply count them. Like, I don't want this to sound like it's always really witchy or really tasty and that kind of, like, people, you know, probably not the exciting part of the practice that people want to know about on social media, but the still very real, very useful part is that sometimes just counting them is really helpful, and that's something therapeutically that we can use as well. Like, if you're feeling ungrounded, counting, but not if you're not using something tactile and in your hands, then one of the things that I was taught by my stepmom actually was to pick like a higher number and count backwards, so it's more difficult, so it requires more of like our attention, and it helps with the grounding and pacing yourself. So I will extend that suggestion on to others. I have found it personally useful. It's something that I use with clients as well. So yeah, I'm living for these at the moment, feeling very glad that they were something that I have to hand on my altar. Yeah. And then, because people are generally interested, decks that left my collection, because after doing all of the deck collection videos, there were still some that I realised that I loved artistically, but that I just wasn't using for varying reasons, which I'm happy to share if anyone asks about them. So some of the predominant decks that left my collection in, and some of them may surprise people, my feelings on them haven't changed from what I said about them in the videos, if you watched any of my collection videos, but there were other reasons. So I have parted with my Deviant Moon Tarot and Coffee Table book, which I think is going to be the one that surprises people the most, because one of my best friends, Logan, was like, I still can't believe you've parted with it. Like, I didn't think you were actually going to do it. That was funny. The Considerate Cat Tarot, the Crows Tarot, and then two that maybe not so surprising, and these weren't in the videos because I already knew that these two were going, was the Open Portals deck and the Obsidian Oracle. So yeah, that's what left my practice. And finally, because I have been not intaking as much content, the content that I have engaged with stands out a little more because, you know, like I said, my memory's not great. Also, I can look on my YouTube history, yeah, let's be honest, but she doesn't pop up too much, but Alvine Green will pop up every month or so and do a video in recent months, and I'm really enjoying those. I find them to be very personal insights into her practice and her life in a lovely way. Some YouTubers that I just enjoy overall, because I've noticed that I'm tending towards more witchy content as opposed to tarot. That's not, you know, a rule or anything, it's just more so that's what I'm leaning towards at the moment. And I love a lot of what Hearthwitch does. I just freaking love it. And then I find that I don't watch all of the Oak Witch's videos, but I do really love the ones that I do watch that I know like is going to be talking about something that calls to me. So the Oak Witch also. And then there was a video that Kellyanne Maddox did. I'm pretty sure it was in August. I am getting like the first week of September a little bit confuddled with this, but the first there or thereabouts, probably September, because I think she's doing Self-Love September again, which is one of her things that she does every year. The video was called High Quality Solitude and Self-Care, and I just found it really peaceful, really beautiful, very personal, emotive, immersive to watch. It was something that I felt like I needed, and then I felt kind of I suppose spoiled that I was allowed to be a part of that process. You know, watching people when they do videos like that, to me it's a big deal. They're quite vulnerable, they're quite personal, more so than I think sometimes we remember, because it's easy to just watch 1,000 things, so we can ingest stuff so quickly. Then there was another video, but this is more tarot based, which is, I think, probably from the beginning of this year. I was late to this video, but I enjoyed it, which was a talk by Lennon Smith about aesthetics, decks, art and more, I think is the title of the video. Really interesting. I love people who talk about the way that they see things, and very easily present that in a way that they own it as their own. And also then they talk about the reality of how what something looks like to one person won't mean the same thing to another. Like, there's a lot of that in this video, which, as you know, is something that I enjoy as well. I like that. So that's my month. This has been a long video, I am sorry. I wonder if people will watch it back. Once you've surpassed sort of 45 minutes, usually not. Never mind. You've pre-ordered Violet, Jodie. I think we're making the right decision. I'm told that with Violet, there's going to be Pokemon that evolve more into modern forms and into like more historical forms, dependent on the game you get. So obviously Violet being the more modern future-based one, I'm assuming that there's that. And then yes, very much the same as you, I am purple over red. Like color wise, there's no argument. But one thing I will confess, and don't ask me why, when I say scarlet in my head, away from any kind of context, when I say scarlet and violet, I think of various purple colours both times. And I don't know why I have misunderstood scarlet as a purple colour continuously over my lifetime, because I know it's red. I know scarlet is red, but for some reason I always think of it as purple. So yeah, yes, Vika is a great person to have this conversation with. Vika is misread. Do you know, it's funny, Vika, red has become more of a I've had more of an affinity for it in recent years, but I think in that it reminds me of blood workings and runes and a deep emotive sort of liquid flow that and I'm not talking about menstrual cycles because I hate mine, so but that kind of blood to wine vampy red is a mood that I enjoy having in and around me. But I have like a much longer affinity with purple for sure. I love that I have Mrs. Purple and Mrs. Red on here though. That's awesome. If not purple, it's green. I mean, if you're going to ask me to pick a colour for anyone who manages to get all the way to the end, if you watch this all the way to the end, for anyone who rewatches this, because I've seen a lot of people do this, right? So I'm going to join in like the little copycat nerd. Tell me what your favourite colour is. So my favourite colour is black. And for years, I was told that didn't count until I got older. And like, I think the younger generations coming up were more okay with it being a colour. And also the community that we're in definitely enjoy. Like, black is a Halloween witchy cliche aesthetic, right? And I say cliche in the most loving way because, as I say, I live for black. And as far as my country is concerned, I look like I'm perpetually dressed for a funeral if you minus the ripped jeans, because obviously they're not very smart. But it's a great idea. I don't think anyone's going to get to 1 hour, 20 minutes, but I'm going to finish up because it's been long. Thank you to everyone who came. This has been way more chatty than I thought. Like, and Vicar and Jodie especially, I love you both for hanging out with me this whole time. You utter legends. It's really been a beautiful, in a selfish way, like my mood feels very light, and I feel very nourished by listening to reading your comments, you know, and having you both here. So thank you. And anyone who watches this back and gets here, like, I'll find a star emoji and I'll give it to you. Okay. I'll do it. So yeah, thank you everyone. I'm going to say bye. If you have any questions about anything I missed, anything I discussed, yada, 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 put them in the comments. And I will see you soon when some discussion or offering births in me and I can bring it to YouTube. Have a lovely day, everyone. Bye.